Josh, my old buddy, I just wanted to start off this podcast with you can stop me any point if this isn't how you recall how we met, or if this is different
It's
in
very
your reality.
distinct. Yeah.
But the way I remember it was I think we were still so we moved to New York and we and Claire and I, my wife, were still shooting weddings together as a team. And the way we got business, which seems so old school now, but maybe people still do this, I don't know, was posting ads on Craigslist like crazy, like 12 a day from two different accounts. So we flooded Craigslist, and that's how we basically started our business with free marketing. And if I remember correctly, you were one of the first to respond to that. And that's when I think we had the moment where like, oh, if we can just keep finding Jessica and Josh's, then like we're set.
Yeah.
Is that how you recall it?
Yeah, no, I remember Jess looking for engagement photographers, and she found a few, but she sent some stuff to you guys. And I remember her like, she's like, I think I found some people, and there were a couple, and they could shoot us. And I think it'd be great. I'm really excited about it. They respond really well. And yeah, I just remember that moment of like kind of nervousness from us because you just don't know what you're going to walk into. But excitement, especially as we reached out to a few people, but had really enjoyed the connection that we kind of had with you guys via text or email at that point. I'm not even quite sure, probably email.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, and then the moment we met you guys, I just remember that Chelsea market, and we ended that day, and I think beyond any of the photos, we were just like, Dustin and Claire are incredible. Like, we really want to be friends with these guys. And so it was a really, I don't know if we'll ever forget those moments. That was really special for us.
Yeah, and the two of you kind of ruined us because I mean, in terms of being a wedding photographer, you have couples that just suck,
Yeah.
that aren't fun to work with. It's like pulling teeth to get them to do a pose, or you put them in a pose, and then they still look awkward, and then you try to get them to laugh, and then they don't even know how to laugh. And so you guys were always like so easy to work with. It was basically like working with professional models. And then I think we sort of made you models in a way because we
Yeah.
did so many different random shoots over the years.
We loved it.
But yeah, it's just so crazy how you can meet someone and keep a relationship going from a Craigslist ad.
Yeah. I think it shows that you also can't discount where it comes from either. I think there's so many ways. You never quite know where you're going to get something really solid or credible or just life changing. And if you discount a certain avenue, you may be missing out on something really, really special.
Exactly. And you guys flew us out for your wedding. You were our first destination wedding, which was like huge at the time to us. So we could say we were destination wedding photographers. So we
Yes.
definitely use our relationship to really benefit our businesses. So I'll never forget that. How long have you guys been in New York now?
Man, I think it's been pretty close to, 15 years of marriage this summer. And so it's probably been about 14 years that we've been in New York.
And you're still staying.
Yeah, we have two kids. We have a home. I'm actually in my mother-in-law's place that's a block away from us. This is the only place I could get that was quiet without kids running around. And so yeah, we're still here. I still dream of moving back to San Diego someday. But kids are in school, family's happy, healthy. We have a nice situation. So it's hard to, with all the uncertainty in life, it's really hard to kind of give that up at the moment.
Yeah. Can you walk me through really kind of like your resume of how you ended up getting into baking? Where did that passion come from? And then sort of where did that lead you in terms of schooling and all your different experiences?
Yeah. I mean, I think baking and the food industry in general has just been incredible to me. It's opened up so many doors and avenues. I really started at 14 washing dishes as soon as I was old enough to work. Working in a kitchen, and then from there started working on a grill line and just all kind of locally in Pennsylvania. And I think the story I always I'm probably sensationalize it a little bit for the amount of times I've told it. But when I got my freshman year of high school, I took like cooking classes, home ec cooking classes. And for me, the thought was there's going to be girls in the cooking classes. A great way of high school is meet girls. And it was all guys. I mean, there was a couple girls, but I think it was all guys doing the same thing. And so for me, it was like a moment of like, okay, I really gotta like just pay attention. And I really fell in love with it. But a big part of it was up to my teacher. She was going through a lot personally with kind of her husband and some illness, but she really showed up and she poured out a lot for us. And so over my ninth and 10th grade year, I spent a lot of time taking all of the cooking classes available. Some of them, and most of them were like focused on like just teaching kids who probably aren't going to go to college how to cook and provide for themselves and how to cook using a microwave or just really simple kind of life things. But it kind of sparked that passion for food for me. And so with that, I decided pretty early on I was going to go to culinary school for college. And so it kind of adjusted how I approached the rest of life. But I didn't want to go to culinary school and cook because I'm allergic to shellfish. And at the time, I really didn't like seafood at all. So my dad got me a job at a local Mennonite bakery. And so on the weekends while I was in high school, I'd work at the bakery. And that was just like I mean, to use the fish reference, that's like a fish and water. I think I just hopped into a bakery and fell in love with the rhythms, the movements, the smells, all of it. And I don't feel like I've really left a bakery since that moment. And I was probably at like 17. Um, but yeah, went to culinary school for 2 years, graduated with an associate's degree, then got asked to stay on as a teaching assistant and stayed there for about 2 years, which was awesome. But then met my wife, who also came through culinary school, and I got a job as a head baker in Kansas. And, she was still at school. And so when she graduated, that's when we moved to San Diego and got married. And then life just kind of went from there. Um, yeah, it's been a few moments of our life where it's like when we were in San Diego, we both moved up in our careers pretty quickly. And that's where her family is from. And there was that moment where it's like, okay, if we stay here, this is life, and this is what it's going to be, and there's not much room for growth for us here. And so it's kind of just, this is kind of capping us at our learning for what we know. And we both were like, well, we want to open our own bakery someday. So we want to learn from the best. And so let's just apply and send our resumes out all over the world. And if one of us gets a job that one of us is excited about, we don't have kids, we don't have any attachments. Let's just figure out how to go wherever that is. And if that's in like Australia or France or, New York City, we'll figure it out. And she got an opportunity to do an internship at her dream cake spot. And so we packed up and we moved to Brooklyn just after a hurricane. I forget what hurricane that was. And maybe Sandy.
And yeah.
But yeah, we're supposed to have interviews and it got pushed a week and we came back and like Wall Street, the financial district was still like blacked out with no electricity. It was a wild time to be there, but I ended up getting a job. And so we literally just packed up and drove. And we've been here ever since. Since then, I think the industry's opened up a lot of opportunity for me. We have opened our own bakery. We opened it during the pandemic and then we're able to sell it. I've worked for kind of like AI food company startups. I've worked, for equipment companies. I've worked for really small spots. Currently, I took a job kind of heading up production for a Danish bakery here in the city after we sold our business. And then from that, kind of grown within the company and now running the entire business here in the US, which is like 5 cafes in Manhattan and then our production facility in Queens. So really far beyond anything I ever imagined, but I've been able to travel the world and go as far as Australia and go to Turkey, spent a lot of time in Germany and Denmark, for work, and South America as well for some consulting. And so all of that for food, which is really fun and just special because you get to connect people over kind of like a secondary language of just making beautiful and delicious food.
I want to go back, sort of focus more on when you guys had your own thing going on during the pandemic. Maybe I'm getting this wrong or remembering this wrong, but didn't you guys have like a system where you're like posting like your daily specialty and then it would sell out immediately. Wasn't that like your strategy at the time?
Yeah, so I mean, we started at Smorgasburg. We had our first kid, and I basically just went back to work, and I stayed home about after he was like 4 or 5 months old. And I would just make all of our stuff for Smorgasburg on the weekend. It was really just cookies, cinnamon rolls, and some loaves of bread. That business kind of like took off for us. And so we opened the brick and mortar spot. But the whole goal of the brick and mortar spot was we wanted to be a wedding cake studio. So it was going to be solely focused on Jess. And I would do the baking and kind of behind the scenes stuff, and she would do the kind of finishing piece of it. So been a Monday through Friday, almost like by appointment only type thing. But by the time we were able to like finish the build out and get open in November of 2019, we did like a Thanksgiving, Christmas baking special just to let people know who we were and kind of open up. And the plan was January to like hit the ground running, full force wedding cake studio. And so March hits and it's just like hard pivot. Weddings are done. You don't quite know the landscape. So we closed down for a little bit, just kind of figure it out. And then we, being like a food business, we were able to kind of move forward as an essential kind of business. So it was just my wife and I and her mother-in-law or my mother-in-law, her mom. And we just started, using the mill, kind of opened up as a pre-order only business. So we'd post what we had, take pre-orders, and then on Saturday through like some distance, we'd set up the orders. People would come pick them up, and it was perfect business because you had zero waste. But as the pandemic kind of changed through different cycles, that really changed how we approach things. But social media was honestly the biggest selling point for us. Like if we weren't consistent on Instagram, we'd see the sales kind of drop and dip. And those days where we did post and the days where I had really engaging or really quirky or off the wall posts, you would see the engagement of people kind of walking into the space or being excited about those products we had. So there was a direct correlation to, our social media presence and our sales, just for the day and that like immediacy. But I think it's also just keeping your business forefront. There was, I think, 6 coffee shops within a block of our business. So we knew coffee wasn't going to be our thing that set us apart. And so we just focused on drip coffee. And if people wanted a, espresso drink of some sort, they could walk any direction and find a place that could make that. So we focused on quick service and really specialty items and just kind of making quick transactions for our customers so they could come in, order, and be back out the door in, a minute, 2 minutes. Or if they want to stay and chat, they can also stay and chat. And so it's really kind of focusing on what we can do well and communicating that to the customer, but also just kind of trying to keep yourself always constantly like in that POV for them so they know and can kind of walk to where you're at.
And you guys sustained that for 4 years? You had the
Yeah, so we it was actually like right now and 3 years ago we sold the business overall. And it was kind of it was a cool point for us because our son had started school. So we didn't need to be childcare anymore. My wife and I, we wanted to see each other a little bit more as well. I was working usually like 10 or 11 p.m. to like 8 or 9 in the morning. Jess and her mom would drop Asher off at school. I had already opened up the cafe for the morning. They would kind of come in, take over front of the house. I would go mill for the next few hours down in the basement. And then I would go home, nap, and then pick Asher up from school and kind of go from there. So we had this cycle where we maybe saw each other for a couple hours a day. And business was at that point where it's like we either needed to take on investment to grow it or start taking on more employees and kind of change our business model a little bit. And I think it was both of us were like, this has been something completely different than we ever imagined. And it's been really beautiful. And I know this next step of growing it is going to change it into something that maybe we don't want it to be. And I think we both would rather just like have it stay what it was and be okay with that. And it was really successful and financially successful for us, but also just achieved everything we wanted and kind of run its course. And I knew that that's not the type of model I would want to kind of grow and multiply, but it really hit what we wanted to do there. Every recipe was freshly milled stone ground flour and very like delicate. And so the amount of like skill required to make every recipe work was like extremely high. And that's just not something you can really replicate on a high level. And so we started kind of shopping it around. We found a really good option, and we had a really loyal customer base, and so we ended up selling it to another kind of well-known bakery in Williamsburg, and so they were able to kind of step in and just a really quick turnover and kind of have a very already regular customer base doing almost the same thing we were doing and just kind of adding those few pieces like espresso drinks that we weren't before. And so it's really cool to go by there now and just see the line kind of down around the block, and not
Not
wish
be
we were back
involved.
there. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You're like, that's great. But I do remember our closing day. Our final day was probably one of the most surreal moments and special moments I don't know. I cried multiple times over that day, because we had some family coming to help. We had some family coming from San Diego. But we have like roll gates down over the windows, so I wasn't really just prepping and kind of getting ready for everything. And I just had somebody from my family text and be like, "Hey, like this line is crazy." And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" And I like stepped out the door, and it was about an hour before we opened, and there was a line down the entire block and wrapping on like out front down the block and then wrapped back down around, like hundreds and hundreds of people lined up for our final day. And I made everything I possibly could. I literally was baking the entire previous day just to prep for this day, and I think we sold out in a few hours versus like I think we were making everything where there's no way people are going to buy all of this. This is crazy. We're just going to have so much product left over to donate. And we were sold out just a few hours after opening, and our friends came to like help do the register and serve, and like it was just a really cool moment of like, man, we built something really, really special and something that people care about. And it was even raining that day. I have a photo from the day. It was like raining, and people are in line with their kids, like waiting an hour, 2 hours just to get something we made. And that's just like the most humbling, like, why would you wait for something that I made? You know, it's like it's just me. I'm just a human. I'm just making something with flour, water, sugar, and salt. You know, it's like to have people like care enough to wait for that is really, that's why we do this. You know, it's why you want to get into this industry and create things for people. It's just the ultimate compliment, and I never liked seeing people wait. You know, I want to get that, but it was really just a powerful way for us to end the business and know that like we really made an impact, which was cool.
That's amazing. I had no idea that that was your guys' exit from that. I thought it was more depressing, I guess. So that's why I don't think I ever asked about it.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, that's insane. I mean, really, if you think about it, you know, so many people have the dream of what you've basically broken down is like we're gonna follow our passion. We're gonna move somewhere where we have no connections, and we're gonna make it work. And you did it in New York City, which I don't care what industry it is, it's still hard. Like even if because you're with the world's best, like when it comes to bakers or running a restaurant or a photographer, like you have so much competition and
Yeah.
so much capital behind
Yeah.
these other people. And some people they basically can just wait you out in a way. Where
So
they
true. Yeah.
and for you guys to just sort of be mom and pop and during COVID, I mean that's just it's unreal that you guys pulled that off. Um, is there anything in terms of just following that passion, never, you know, giving up and staying positive, like someone, you know, younger who's just out of high school or trying to figure out if they're going to go to college, is AI going to take over everything and they wanted to follow their passion? Is there something you think has made you successful to this point? Because you really have gone from nothing to the very very top as my focus goes out on my camera, there we go. But like what is the, you know, the secret sauce, you think? Is it just not giving up, or do you have more insight into that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, you know, there's always been, you know, a few things. I think, I don't know if it's the right spot to hit. I think, you know, there's a piece of it that I do understand, having privilege, being a 6'3" like white man in the industry, that like there are times where you do get a higher level of respect. So I don't want to like assume that that's also not a part of it. There is some privilege there. I think for me, the pieces that I have kind of consistently been through it is, you know, everywhere I go, I'm never gonna step in as if I am the expert or I know what I'm doing. Anytime I walk into a new environment, like I'm learning and I'm there to learn. I'm there to learn from the people that know what they are doing and have been there for a while. I have a lot to bring to the table, and I'll bring that to the table when, the people I'm around feel safe enough to receive that. I think, being the youngest of three siblings growing up in a church environment, you spend a lot of time kind of walking into environments and needing to understand how to regulate to that environment. And I think I've always done that and just kind of taken a moment to see where I'm at, see how the place works, see how people work, who, where, what, when, why, and just kind of find those moments and just really understand the ecosystem. And then once I understand the ecosystem, learn how to operate highly effectively in it. One thing that I think is really undervalued is like understanding who your boss is and what your boss wants and just going after that. I think a lot of times people come in and they have this idea of like, hey, this is what I'm really good at. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to achieve in management or at this location or doing this thing. And it's like, I think if you're stepping into a place where you have a boss, it's like, okay, what does my boss see as important? What does good look like to my boss? And how do I achieve that on a high level? And if I can do those things and have time for the other things, great. But like, I need to do what my boss sees as is important and learn from that and like learn how to achieve that. And I think that helps with a lot of success. And kind of going from there. But I think doing your own thing, it's finding out what makes you special and what makes what you do extra. I think I've always tried to live life with a lot of humility. And so I don't think I always felt like we had something super special to offer. I think I more so wanted to just provide a place for people to feel safe. I think Jess and I are a really good balance because she's very like risk averse, and I'm very much like, let's just try it, go for it, just really, all out. And I think we really do a good job of like meeting in the middle because if we pursued every opportunity that I was really excited about, I think we'd be in a very different place in life. But if we also didn't take those jumps and we were scared to make a big jump, we wouldn't have had the beauty of what our business was, and we wouldn't be in New York City anymore, and we wouldn't be kind of at the places we are. And so I think there's this really, really good thing to have somebody in your life that kind of balances you, that yin and yang, that like if you are extremely risk averse, bring somebody into your life that you care about and cares about you, that is the complete opposite and helps you kind of see those opportunities that you would immediately just say no to and just kind of revisit them. But for me to have those like moments where the bar for me to do something is just so low, like, yeah, I'll go jump, I'll go do it, and have my wife just like have that check, like, why are you doing this? Does this add value? Is this something that is going to bring health to you, or is it just going to kind of wear you down and kind of take time away from what you should be doing? Our business was that of like, I had been asking Jess to open a business for years, and I went, and for 4 years I was looking at locations for a business, and I had a real estate agent that was super patient, super kind, went and showed me one spot, and I would figure out what a business would look like in there, what it would cost to open a bakery, what I would need, and everything like that. And then talk to Jess, no, we're not ready for that. Find another space, maybe 2-3 months later, 6 months later, oh man, this place is perfect, great neighborhood, right off the train, this big of a space, this is what we do, and I game plan the whole thing out. No, that's just too much to take on right now. And the space we ended up at, I brought her to 3 times, and it like checked all the boxes, but it also gave her, we had something called a good guy clause, which is if at any point you are up on your rent payments and taking care of things and you no longer want to be a part of this like lease, you can kind of give me a 3 months notice and walk away, and just step away from the lease, right? Without any responsibility to it. Not all good clauses were as clean as ours was, but that right there gave my wife the ability to be like, you know what? If we do step into this, it doesn't work out, we're not tied to this for the 8 years of the lease. We have time, we have the space to kind of like see if it works. If it doesn't, we can walk away. So really like making sure that like you do have that excitement, make sure you're also kind of having your bases covered so you can step into something. And if it doesn't work, you still have the energy and the excitement to maybe try to attack something else later on down the road. But ultimately, I think the base level is just always being a constant learner. Anywhere you go, you can learn from anybody about anything. Always really super curious. I just started taking improv classes in New York City because like I had somebody suggest it as a way to help with my conversation and dialogue and how I interact with people. And I've just fallen in love with it. I'm terrible at it, but like for me, I can step in there and I'm so new and there's some of the funniest people in the world to be around. But it's just like I'm just constantly learning and it's just reframing everything and teaching me how much I don't know and don't understand. But it's like putting yourself in positions where you are uncomfortable in the sense that you're stretching, you're growing, you're learning new things. And once you feel comfortable or once you are that person in the room that is the most knowledgeable, try to find that new room to step into where you can just be down at the bottom end of the totem pole, just learning from everybody around you.
That's awesome. Um, completely different conversation, but is AI taking over the baking world? I have no idea what's going
Yeah.
on in terms of AI and baking. Should I be worried that all pastries are going to be made by robots anytime soon?
Uh, Definitely some adjustments. AI is making some headway in there. I think it's the positive thing. What I really love about our industry is like even if I think where I've tried to position myself that like say robots do take over. I've worked with some of the companies that would be developing those things, and they are always going to need experts to train those models or train those robots or be the expert kind of behind the scenes. And I'm really good at that. And I love technology and I love those things. But one of the things with like artisan baking is it is so nuanced and it does involve like the human touch. And you know, you really can I've been in facilities where a human hand does not touch a piece of bread before it gets bagged up. The ingredients go from a truck into silos. The guy at the mixer pushes the recipe button. All the ingredients come through a silo into a mixing bowl. The mixing bowl starts mixing. Sensors tell it what to do, how long to mix when it's ready. It goes from the mixing bowl to basically a metal piping tip onto a conveyor belt. It's crazy. It's really wild to watch, but like I do believe in the spirituality of things and you can feel the soul of something. And I always love to be a part of creating something with life, with soul, with just joy in it, and that translates. And so I know there will always be a desire. It may go out of fashion for a bit, or, you know, the world may be in a place where we need the most cost effective bread possible. But I know that that desire and that want for artisan nature and artisan things that are natural, made by hand, will always be there, and will always be in society. So there are pieces of the business that will, I'm for sure, automated out. But, you know, I think with that kind of nuanced touch, it's definitely a harder thing to completely eradicate the human kind of hand in baking.
Good to know. I guess we will leave it there. Is there anything you wish to plug in terms of what you got going on, or
You know, just huge shout out to Ole Steen. You know, it's a great Danish bakery here in New York City. We have 5 locations, all day cafe, great coffee, great people, great sandwiches. You know, and this winter has been tough, I think, for everybody in New York City, the blizzards, the snow, the intensity. So it's a nice, strong recovery process as we get back to it. And another rainy day out again today. But, you know, I just really, if you're in New York City and you want an incredible Danish experience, some really delightful rye bread, especially if you're coming from Europe. We have some great ryes, great sandwiches, and would love to see you there. Shoot me a message and I'll come say hi.
awesome? Well, thank you very much, Josh, and we will
Absolutely.
end it right here.
Great.